हाँ जी.
So, Taneja ji, can we start?
हाँ जी, sure, please.
Okay. Namaste and a very warm welcome to all of you.
Namaskar.
Namaste. It is my privilege to anchor this meeting today. So, thank you very much, Taneja ji. Let us start with the universal prayer. Please stand by for the universal prayer. O hidden life, vibrant in every atom. O hidden light, shining in every creature.
O hidden light, shining in every creature.
O hidden love, embracing all in oneness.
O hidden love, embracing all in oneness.
May each who feels himself as one with thee
May each who feels himself as one with thee
know he is also one with every other.
know he is also one with every other.
Om Shanti 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 Om. Once again, namaste and welcome to all of you, dear brothers and sisters. So, it gives me immense pleasure to anchor this meeting, and the topic of our today's meeting is the yoga of science applied in daily life. The science of yoga and daily life. And it gives me a lot of pleasure to introduce our speaker today, Sister Suvralina Mohanty. She is very well known in the Theosophic circles, and I share a very special sisterly bond with her. So I'm so glad to introduce her. Sister Suvralina, she is a MSc in mathematics and has a PGDM in HR management. She has more than 25 years of industry experience as a strategic HR manager, and also she has done a lot of R&D in training and development. She joined the Theosophical Society in 2003 at the Siddharth Lodge in Bhubaneswar, and she was introduced to TS by Sister Mitalini and Brother Pradeep Mahapatra. Later on, when she moved to Delhi in 2008, she joined the Shankar Lodge in the Delhi Federation. Then she relocated to Ghaziabad, and there she became the founder of Prayas Lodge. So that was one of a very commendable, I would say, her initiative to found a new lodge. And the members in that lodge, they are mostly youth and children, for whom she conducts weekly meetings. She inspires them, conducting their seminars and classes, and from time to time, she addresses youth camps. She is a life member of the Theosophical Society. She has addressed many youth camps here and also in Bhuvali. She's working with many NGOs and organizations and works for the holistic development of children. In this, her membership of last 17 years, she has been a very active member of TOS. And she has been looking after this post of Regional Secretary of the Delhi region TOS. She has organized so many seminars. She has got also the privilege of delivering a talk in the TOS session at the International Convention of 2018. So I have seen her as a very enthusiastic and having a very positive outlook towards life. She firmly believes in the unity of life, and she leads her life that way, following the natural laws, the law of karma. And she observes her own self with this practical aspect of spiritual science. And of all her personal identities, she loves to be or prefers to be a theosophist first. So with this introduction, I would like to invite Sister Suvralina to inspire us with her thoughts on the science of yoga and daily life. Sister Suvralina.
Thank you, Vibhaji. Thank you, Taneja ji, for organizing this and giving me a privilege to talk on this title. The last line of Vibhaji, I would keep remembering every now and then, every morning when I wake up, that I am a theosophist first. Yes, I believe, and I would love to believe and say myself this as a mantra of my life. I'm privileged to talk on this title, Science of Yoga and Daily Life. I'm primarily referring the book Science of Yoga. So most of the terms or sentences I would be using or referring or reading out will be from this book, 80 to 90%, which you all have read. But let us read it together. Reading is really fun when we read together and we try to give our combined thoughts on that. It creates magic. That is my belief. So with that belief, let me try to take you all through some of the explorations which we should explore and also make it a habit in our daily life. So this book by I.K. Taimani is a very practical book, I think. It refers to the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali, which is a collection of 196 Sanskrit sutras on the theory and practice of yoga. We all know it was compiled by the sage Patanjali in India, who synthesized and organized knowledge about yoga from much older traditions. And it is the most translated ancient Indian text, which has been translated into about 40 Indian languages and 2 non-Indian languages. The text fell into relative obscurity for nearly 700 years from the 12th to 19th century and made a comeback in the late 19th century due to the efforts of Swami Vivekananda, the Theosophical Society, and others. Before the 20th century, history indicates that the medieval Indian yoga scene was dominated by the various other texts such as the Bhagavad Gita and the Yoga Vasishtha, texts attributed to Yagnavalkya and Hiranyagarbha, as well as literature on Hatha Yoga, Tantric Yoga, and Pashupata Shaivism Yoga. Consideration of 2 different traditions, namely 8 limbs yoga, which we call Ashtanga Yoga, and the action yoga, Kriya Yoga. So when we say there are these many sutras, what are sutras? The word sutram in Sanskrit means a thread. Just as a thread binds together a number of beads in a rosary, the underlying continuity of idea binds together in the outline of the essential aspects of a subject. The effort to discover the hidden thread of reasoning beneath the apparently unconnected ideas provides the clue to the meaning of many sutras. The necessity of struggling with the words and ideas and digging out the hidden meaning ensures a thorough assimilation of knowledge, and it also develops the powers and faculties of mind. So that is about the sutras. Now we all know, if I ask myself, if you all ask ourselves, what is yoga? What is yoga to me? As we know, the word yoga derived from yuj, meaning to join, literally means union. A living science to move towards an experiential reality where one knows the ultimate nature of the existence. The human soul, the Jivatma, a partial expression of the oversoul, Paramatma, the divine reality, has become subjectively separated after going through the evolutionary cycles. The state of unification of these two in consciousness, Jivatma and Paramatma, these two, when we unify in our consciousness, that is yoga. So yoga refers to a group of physical, mental, and spiritual practices or disciplines, which primarily, as I said, originated in ancient India. I'm going to pick up those sutras which I consider to be a part of my talk today in this 30, 40 minutes, 45 minutes maximum. So I will pick up only a couple of sutras as per the time and as per the importance I give in the daily life. So let us first understand this first sutra. I mean the second sutra, but first sutra in this talk. Yoga Chitta Vritti Nirodha. Yoga is the inhibition, nirodha, of the modifications, vritti, of what? Of the mind, chitta. Now, chitta is derived from chit, chitti, one of the three aspects of Paramatma we know, Sat, Chit, Ananda. It is the instrument or medium through which the Jivatma materializes his individual world, lives and evolves in the world until he has become perfected and united with the Paramatma. Again, yoga, unifying, getting united. Now, what is vritti? It is derived from vrita, means to exist. So, vritti is a way of existing. It is translated as transformation, but in the context, the word functioning expresses to the maximum degree of significance. So, vritti means just being there. Chitta and vritti. Now, what is nirodha? This is derived from niruddham, meaning restrained, controlled, inhibited. Means inhibition or complete suppression in the last stage of yoga. Restraint at initial, control at more advanced stage. So first restraint, then control. It's like knowing and managing. I can't say I'll manage the house if I don't know where things are kept. I cannot manage myself if I don't know myself. So here comes this practical aspect of things. To manage something, I should know first. To manage my personality, my ego, my individuality, I should know what is my ego, what is my personality, what is my individuality. To manage a group of people as a leader, I must know them, then I can lead them. It's very simple. Similar things happen in our spiritual journey. These are very similar, very small, but very important things which we keep on ignoring and we think of big things. But these small things actually play the major roles. So let us go ahead to understand what are the chapters in this book. Since I will not be reading the whole book and I'm just summarizing it, and that too from a practical aspect to apply in daily life. So some of the things I'll just read out. So forgive me for not explaining many things in this talk. You all have read it. Every time you read it, you will find the inner meanings, of course. So there are 4 chapters. Samadhipada, the first chapter, having 51 sutras. Samadhi refers to a state of direct and reliable perception, pramana, where the yogi's self-identity is absorbed into pure consciousness, collapsing the categories of witness, witnessing, and witnessed. Seeing, seer, and seen. That's what we refer. Even Bhagavad Gita also refers similar texts. Knowing, knower, known. Samadhi is the main technique the yogi learns by which to dive into the depths of the mind to achieve kaivalya, liberation. In Hinduism, we call it moksha. Now, then comes the sadhana pada, 55 sutras. Sadhana is the Sanskrit word for practice or discipline. There are 2 systems of yoga, as I earlier told you guys, Kriya Yoga and Ashtanga Yoga. 8-fold or 8-limbed yoga and the Kriya Yoga. Now, third is the Vibhuti Pada, 56 sutras. Vibhuti is the Sanskrit word for power or manifestation. Supranormal powers, siddhi, are acquired by the practice of yoga. So we know something, then we practice, then we are getting the power. So see the flow. It's such a beautiful flow. Combined simultaneous practice of dharana, dhyana, and samadhi is referred to as sayama and is considered a tool of achieving various perfections or siddhis. And the last one, which is Kaivalya Pada, has 34 sutras. Kaivalya literally translates to isolation. But as used in the sutras, stands for emancipation or liberation and is used where other texts often employ to them the term moksha or liberation. The Kaivalya Pada describes the process of liberation and the reality of the transcendental ego. The whole journey, when you get liberated, everything ends there. Or maybe you get into another cycle of new birth with new energy, with new purposes of life. Now comes the next sutra. Tada drastu swarupe avasthanam. Then the seer is established in his own essential and fundamental nature. The seer is established in his swarupa, self-realization. So what we see, sometimes we say, oh, I see, we call it shades of my life. I generally use this term. There are different shades to my life. Sometimes I'm this, sometimes I'm that, I'm this and I'm that. But who am I? What is my swarupa? Fundamentally, what am I? It can only be realized from within and not comprehended from without. A small, such a short and sweet sutra, but so deep. It can only be realized from within and not comprehended from without. The next sutra, Vritti Sarupyam Itaratra. In other states, there is assimilation of the seer with the modifications of the mind. Now, there is this swarupa. The moment it gets attached to certain other things, somewhere the swarupa is veiled, shadowed, or maybe covered up. Then the modifications of mind starts. When the chitta vrittis are not in the state of nirodha and the drashta is not established in his swarupa, he is assimilated with the particular vritti which happens to occupy the field of his consciousness for the moment. Certain examples. Imagine a lighted electric bulb suspended in a tank full of water. If the water is churned violently, it will make all kinds of patterns in 3 dimensions around the bulb. These patterns being illuminated by the light. The bulb will disappear from view. All the light emanating from it is assimilated in the surrounding water. When the churning of water is slowed down gradually until the water becomes perfectly still, the 3-dimensional patterns begin to subside and the bulb emerges into view. So when there is churning, there is chaos, we don't see the swarupa. When there is stillness, calmness, composure, controlled, then it reveals. It emerges into view. When the mind comes to rest, the result is enlightenment. What are the modifications of mind? In those other states, when we are not in our sarupa, there is assimilation of the seer with the modifications of the mind, we say, when the chitta vrittis are not in the state of nirodha and the drashta is not established in his swarupa. So we have to remember this. Next comes 1 or 2 more sutras altogether I'm taking. Vrittayaha Panchataya Klista Pramana Viparyaya Vikalpa Netra Smritaya. The modifications of the mind are 5-fold and are painful or not painful. In relation to our feelings, they could be painful, pleasurable, neutral. Our ignorance caused by illusions makes us see pleasure in experiences which are potentially source of pain. In our inner eyes, when they are open, we would see the potential pain hidden with these pleasures. The control and complete suppression of the modifications extinguishes our lower life completely. Now, what are these 5-fold modifications? Pramana, right knowledge. Viparyaya, wrong knowledge. Vikalpa, fancy, imaginary things. Nidra, sleep, smriti, memory. Now, when you come to pramana and viparya, all images which are formed by some kind of direct contact through the sense organs with the outer world of objects. Then coming to vikalpa and smriti, all images produced as a result of the independent activity of the lower mind, which have gathered and stored in the mind. One is our sense organs, our perceptivity, and one is when we gathered up and store up things. We all know about Nidra. Mind continues to be active on its own plane, but its images are not reflected on the screen of physical, the brain, when there is Nidra, sleep. So, considering all these 5 modifications, once we know them, now that we know them, how do I manage my sleep? How much time am I sleeping? How much am I storing up things? See, there is a Sanskrit translation of it, but then there is a meaning to it also. If I don't derive it to my daily life, then it will only be a shloka. So it's better to worship the book only. Just keep the book in our temple, just do tilak and arti, and we think we will get the results of it. No way. I must know what is Nidra. I must manage my Nidra. I must know what is the vikalpa and smriti, what is I'm storing up in our mind. I would then only control. Again, going back to the theory, knowing and then managing. Controlling will, come up afterwards, naturally. Moving ahead, taking another sutra, Abhyasa Vairagyabhyam Tar Nirodha. We all have read it in Bhagavad Gita also. Abhyas and Vairagya. Practice and non-attachment. Their suppression is brought about by persistent practice and non-attachment. Effort for being firmly established in that state is practice, abhyasa. Consciousness of perfect mastery of desires is vairagya, non-attachment. Now there is a little twist here. I would like to present my screen and show you so that you can see. I would have probably shared it in other forums. People would have seen it earlier, but let me repeat it again. There is always a beauty in repeating, recalling, reminding. So if it is visible to everybody, people can see, which if it is not visible to few, let me just read it again. Abhyasa and Vairagya are 2 of the most important foundation principles of yoga. Abhyasa means practice and Vairagya means non-attachment. Balancing these 2 companions is a key to spiritual life, allowing one to pursue the subtler meditation practices. If you can see, in this balance, there is a never give up and always let go. So practice will push me to never give up. I want to wake up early. I want to tell the truth. I want to be merciful, kind, conscious, considerate. So let me just practice it. I'll never give up this. Always let go. I'm holding on to never giving up. I'll not let it go. But at the same time, I'm also allowing to let go when it is attachment. 2 opposite things. Sticking to something, letting go something. But then there is a difference. What am I sticking to? What am I letting go? That is practice and non-attachment. So to move again, to study further on abhyasa and practice, the practices must be continued for a long time. The path of yoga appears very fascinating in the beginning. Of those who enter the path, only a microscopical minority are able to make good progress. Microscopical minority. We are all struggling. We say we are doing yoga every morning. No, we are not doing yoga every morning. We are trying to do yogic practices to actually be connected. Very few have the courage and perseverance to continue. In few cases, karma interposes a real obstacle in the path of the aspirant. We all would have experienced. Somebody has a physical ailment, somebody is mentally somewhere, somebody is not feeling good. My bodies are not ready, my vehicles are not ready. How am I going to do it? Maybe my past karmas are restricting me to do yoga. Honestly, this happens to people I've seen. In majority of cases, the lack of spiritual maturity causes discontinuation of the practice too. Because somewhere there is a wish, or I don't know, people tend to ask. I've come across many people who keep on asking, how am I going to get it? How am I going to achieve it? How am I going to go to that thing? We don't need to give anything. We don't need to give effort. We don't need to give time. And we always want to take something. We always want to get out of it something. Practically speaking, am I ready to give? So there comes the spiritual maturity. And that is why most of the people also leave things in between. There should be no interruptions. Of course, bringing about very deep-seated and fundamental changes in the various vehicles through which consciousness functions on the different planes require no interruptions, definitely. Every new technique which is initiated must be practiced continuously until it is sufficiently mastered. I'm not going to talk about practices, of course, here, because I've never studied yoga as a subject, or I'm not a yogic teacher or a yoga practitioner. Many yogic teachers or yoga practitioners will tell us actually healthy, good practices. But what I'm going to touch upon is we should do it continuously, practicing continuously. That is what I bring in when I say what I'm going to do in daily life. Whatever I've learned, I must not leave it in between. Excuse me. The path must be trodden with devotion and in spirit of reverence. To give ourselves completely to the work, complete retirement may not be possible or necessary, but a wholehearted devotion is necessary. Circumstances and habits of past lives may not allow us to adopt this new pointed attitude, but this one pointed attitude, but all at once, but we must work steadily. It will come. I myself, I'm a very chanchal kind of a person. I'm not very sthir, honestly speaking. I know what are the things inside me. I am still trying to do it. Honestly speaking, to speak slow with pauses, I take efforts. It is not coming to me naturally. But then I'm practicing it. And I'm sure someday I will overcome this. हम होंगे कामयाब, हम गाते हैं. Let us do it. अभी तो हम सब बच्चे हैं. So we'll overcome. I consider that way. I still consider myself as a child. And I know I am a chanchal kind of a person. Fickle, idhar bhagta hai man. But then I know this, I can control my mind. That belief is helping me to bring into it. Again, daily life. If I do it daily, someday you will find a new Suvralina. Oh, Suvralina, you are so composed. That's nice. So that is the image I'm putting in front of me. Suvralina, you have to be a composed personality. You are running here and there. Hold on. Continuously, when I'm detaching myself from Suvralina, the moment I say, hey, I am like this and let it go. I am like this. From that attitude, if I bring to a position wherein I say, Suvralina, hold on there, be there. I am being the master of my own self. I mean, this is how I believe. That's why I'm sharing. It might sound odd or awkward to many of you, but this is what I sincerely believe. Now, coming to Vairagya, non-attachment. Vairagya is derived from the word raga, attraction due to pleasure derived from any object. Why absence of attraction only? Why not absence of repulsion? Sometimes we are very attached to somebody as an hatred. I mean, love is an attachment, even hatred is an attachment. We very much hate somebody and we are so attached to that feeling, that thought. I don't like this. Strong likes and strong dislikes, all are attachments. We often say, no, strong likes are only attachments. No, sometimes, why sometimes? Mostly, these days, our sincere, our serious dislike is also an attachment. We can't just forgive. We are so much attached to that negative emotion for somebody. So both attraction and repulsion bind us. Desire keeps the mind in a constant state of agitation. Trying to render the mind calm without eliminating desire is like trying to stop the movement of a boat on a surface of water which is agitated by a strong wind. Bringing about very deep-seated and fundamental changes in the various vehicles through which consciousness functions on the different planes. Every new technique which is initiated must be practiced continuously. Till when? Until it is sufficiently mastered. See, knowing, managing, now we are talking about mastering, controlling. Temporary indifference has nothing to do with vairagya. The attraction will come to the surface as soon as necessary conditions are present. So that is a temporary indifference. There has to be deliberate destruction of all attractions and the consequent attachments and conscious mastery over the desires. Real vairagya is not characterized by a violent struggle with our desires. It comes naturally and in its most effective form by the exercise of our discriminative faculty, vivek. Awareness of our own lives. Let us analyze life, question its experiences, argue with ourselves, note carefully how much we put into life and how much we gain from life. When we become aware of the deficit balance, we shall start inquiring how our life could be more profitably reorganized. The wonders of a moral life, the wisdom of ethical values, the joys of self-control, the thrills of growth, the consequent suffocation of the egocentric little life. From the moment we start trying to become aware of our own lives, we are in the realm of practice and detachment. Abhyasa and vairagya. It will come automatically to us. Then the mind comes under control. Now, if I start talking about certain varieties of samadhis, there are primarily two varieties of samadhis. Samadhi refers to a state of direct and reliable perception, where the yogi's self-identity is absorbed into pure consciousness, collapsing the categories of witness, witnessing, and witnessed. That is why we say sampragyata, asampragyata. We all know, but let us just repeat it once again. Samadhi with pragya, not the samadhi with pragya. Higher consciousness working through the mind, pragya. Pra is high, gya is know, to know, pragya. The higher consciousness unfolds in samadhi. Mind is cut off completely from the physical world. Consciousness is free from the burden and interference of the physical brain. And what are the differences between them? Presence or absence of pratyaya, a mental image, any concept, an all-embracing vision of unity of life. This will decide if it is there or not. With that, that is sampragyata. Not without that, any samadhi, not with that pragya, is asampragyata. That is why sampragyata samadhi is that which is accompanied by reasoning, reflection, bliss, and sense of pure being. There are 5 courses. I'll just read through them carefully, clearly. I had noted them. Annamaya, that is physical. Pranamaya, vital. Manomaya, our mind. Vijnanamaya, intellectual. Anandamaya, bliss. The pratyaya or the content of mind will depend upon which particular kosha is active at a given time. In the model presented by Tamini, he follows the path of consciousness as it passes through Manomaya, Vijnanamaya, Anandamaya, and finally merges with the consciousness. And all these 4 successive phases of samadhi, which I said, they are called vitarka, reasoning. vichara, reflection, ananda, bliss, asmita, pure being. The correspondence between the koshas and the type of samadhi are made like that. And if we want to achieve that level, that state, the basic 4 qualities would be Shraddha, faith, firm conviction regarding the presence of the truth we seek within us. We are doing yoga, but we don't have faith. How will we achieve samadhi? Virya, indomitable energy, determination, courage, willpower. I know it will happen, but I will not leave it. I'll go. I'll never give up. Again, practice comes here. Smriti, memory, remembrance of lessons learned from experiences. If I just keep on going experience, I grow old and I say, hey, I'm 70 years old, or I'm 50 years old, or I'm 40 years old. I have more experience than you. But if I don't remember the lessons I bring from that experiences, there is no point. That is why I say, better I be a child, because at least I'll keep learning. I don't want to sound or behave experienced because I'm still learning. Because probably I'm on the path of journeying a learning life. The moment I say I'm experienced, I know all this, it's gone forever. Because it's not in the memory then. Samadhi pragya, high intelligence, state of mind for practice of samadhi. So when we want to progress day-to-day life, when we do this abhyasa and vairagya, all this koshas identification and how do we achieve things, what are those factors of progress? Degree of earnestness. A man of ambition, if he wants to rise to a position of power and influence, has to deal with the minds and attitudes of millions of men outside. But the yogi has to deal only with one mind. He doesn't need to bother about many minds outside. He has to just deal with one mind, that is his own. It is far easier to deal with one's own mind provided one isn't honest. Nature of the means adopted in pursuit of aim, mild or moderate or intense, it depends on the person who wants to achieve this yoga. Then there is self-surrender. Surrender to something bigger or higher. When my higher self is saying something to Suvralina, if the lower Suvralina doesn't shut up, keeps on chattering and doesn't listen to the higher self, and there is no surrender in herself, then Suvralina, nobody is going to save you. Moving ahead. Tatah pratyochetana adhigammo apya antarayam bhavascha. Awareness turns inward and all obstacles disappear from this practice. As you know, inward and outward. There are 2 kinds of consciousness of dramatically opposite nature. You all have seen in the book, you all have read it. Let me just remind you once more with the picture. If we can't understand the text, sometimes pictures speak more than words. One and many. So this is Pratyak and Paranga Chetana. Pratyak, as we saw, inward turned. Paranga is outward turned. Mind of ordinary individual is entirely outward turned. This is caused by vikshepa, distraction, the projection outwards by the lower mind of what is present within it at the center. The whole aim and process of yoga consists in withdrawing the consciousness from without to within. The ultimate mystery of life is hidden in the very center of our being and can be found only there and nowhere else. Then let us touch upon some obstacles. There are various kinds of obstacles. Impurities, disharmonies in the vehicles. As I said, somebody's sick, somebody's thinking a lot, somebody's emotionally, being foolish or behaving foolish. So impurities of any of our vehicle, any of the bodies. Weakness of character. Sometimes we are not very strong in our characters. We say something, do something, think something because we are not very strong within. A very strong character person will stand up for something, means will stand up for something. So that strength of character is needed also. Because if it is a weakness of character, it will be difficult. And lack of development. Conditions of mind causing Vikshepa and counteracting them, as the book says. Disease. That is why perfect health is necessary. So what I'm doing is I'm just showing the chart of things, which is basically the opposite of what is written. If it is disease, the opposite is we need perfect health. If it is dullness, then that should be a dynamic purpose of my life. The third, doubt. That means there has to be unshakable faith in me, in this objective. So what we are doing here is we are not just saying, hey, I have got this problem, I can't go. Can't I think of alternative? If I am stopping myself, this is a very daily life practice, which I sincerely believe, do, preach, tell every now and then to people. People get bored out of it. Every time somebody comes with a problem, I say, so what can you do now? I know there's a problem. I have put it into my daily habit now. There's a problem. What can I do about it? Here comes the solution. So the solution-centering approach has to be there. I think I should, kind of show it on the screen so that we will read it together. It's very, very important. Otherwise, every time we are just talking about, nagging about problems of life. We never ever gather up the courage to do something. See, these are the points. Disease. So how am I going to counteract it? I will have perfect health. Dullness. There has to be dynamic purpose. If I have a dynamic purpose to wake up every day in the morning, I'll wake up. Nobody can find me lazy. If I have doubt, we say, okay, there is a doubt. Then there has to be unshakable faith. So let us apply the solution, just opposite. Carelessness. If I say I'm very careless, why should I use the word even? Hey, I have to be very careful and, I'll pay attention. That, see, it automatically, when I say I'm careless, see, I'm just closing my eyes, my body is so negative. The moment I say, I think I'll be careful, see, I'm smiling. When I say, I think I'll pay attention, I'm being energetic. That is the difference. Experiment it, we will know it. If there is laziness, I will have a discipline to execute things. If there is worldly mindedness, which is killing me, which is stopping me, I'll use the faculty of viveka and become alive to illusions of life. If delusion is there, to be highly alert, to take a thing for what it actually is. Applying my intelligence, applying my discrimination. There is a non-achievement of a state. I will have patience and the capacity to self-surrender. Instability. I will practice perfection. I hope you all see what I'm seeing also. The moment I'm talking about problems, I am in problems. The moment I'm talking about I'll solve it, it's me and we. I'm going to take hold of it. I'm charged up. That's it. And what are those 4 symptoms if we talk about Vikshepa? Mental pain, despair, nervousness, hard breathing. There is a mental plane if there is an inner conflict. There are opposite desires. I want to have it or I don't have to have it. It's like that, I have seen in a lot of Hindi movies, the hero plucks a flower and yes, no, hoga, nahi hoga, or something like that. It chalta rehta hai. Yes, no, to be, not to be. We all are in that state of mind. To do or not to do. To have, to not have. So that gives a pain because there is no clarity in the mind. Every damn thing we do in our daily life, if you don't have clarity in what, let's say Taneja ji asked me to come and, do this talk. Either I'll take a decision, no, I'm not going to take it because science of yoga everybody knows, or no, let me just take it. Maybe I'll bring some daily life approach to it. So it's over. If I say science of yoga, Patanjali book, wow, इतना बड़ा सब कुछ है, बहुत ज्ञान है, मैं छोटी सी जान, इतना बड़ा ज्ञान नहीं हो पाएगा मेरे से, I'm gone. अगर मैं उतना कॉरेज ले आऊं कि नहीं, let me just try. At least I will bring out the daily life part which I have been doing. Maybe people are knowledgeable, people know it. What if I try, if I give a little effort, somebody in the audience, somebody, whoever hears this video afterwards, maybe I'll help one person, because many people would not have read this book. So every damn decision to give a talk, not to give a talk, to go there, not to go there, the moment you are clear why you want to go there, what is there for me, what am I going to do, all mental pain is over. फिर आपको नर्वस भी नहीं लगेगा. मुझे नर्वस लग सकता था, नर्वसनेस आ सकता था कि इतने बड़े बड़े लोग आएंगे, सब पतंजलि सूत्र रट्टे मारे हुए हैं, सबको सब पता है, मैं क्या ही बोलूं. And I'm sure it would have given me a big mental pain. And this is the example I'm telling this. So there could be many examples in our life when we are between two different desires or two different actions to do or not to do. That gives mental pain. So let us develop a sense of clarity in us. Despair, when pain is combined with consciousness of incapacity to remove it. Because we know we want something, but we want it desperately. But then we know that we are incapable. We don't have the capacity. We don't have the strength. There comes the despair. Nervousness, outer physical symptom of despair. The moment I'm in despair, I'm nervous. Then this hard breathing starts. And let me tell you, all basics, you go to any yoga teacher, any person who's doing yogic research, he can never, ever leave breathing as a part of yogic practice. The very essence of our life, the very breath, the very source of our existence, the most powerful thing which we have all been blessed with, the very breathing. If we live that, there is no yoga. And what we are doing by all these symptoms of Vikshepa, we are killing that breathe. We are developing that anxiety. Our breathing is done, over. The mind becomes clarified by cultivating attitudes of the other stuff, opposite to all this negative which we are talking. Compassion, gladness, friendliness, happiness, virtues, all this stuff. But one of the greatest sources of disturbances to the mind is our uncontrolled reactions to our human environment, to what people do around us, to the pleasant or unpleasant conditions in which we get involved. Indifference to vice. This may appear to some as not in accordance with the highest ideals of spiritual life. This is not prescribed as a code of conduct for people in general who have become enlightened and are thus in a position to serve as spiritual teachers. This is recommended for the practical students of yoga who is an aspirant for enlightenment. Active work for spiritual regeneration of others comes after a person has gained at least a certain degree of enlightenment in himself. So the aspirant of yoga cannot frown upon the wicked, because that would tend to arouse hatred and have undesirable repercussions on his mind. He cannot show sympathy towards them because that would be encouraging vice. The only course left open is to adopt an attitude of indifference. And since we have been talking about two systems, I will quickly touch upon them. Kriya Yoga talks about niyamas, which are tapa, austerity, swadhyaya, self-study of scriptures, not just listening to somebody, self-study, reading those words, using my basic intelligence to understand that, swadhyaya. Ishvara pranidhana, devotion to God or pure consciousness, surrendering to something higher, as we have been saying. Tapaha swadhyaya ishvara pranidhanani kriya yoga. Preliminary yoga, this constitutes this. Austerity, self-study, resignation to God. Then Ashtanga yoga, I'm not going to read the theory part of it, just to touch upon these 8. Yama, Niyama, Asana, Pranayama, Pratyahara, Dharana, Dhyana, Samadhi. Restraints or ethics of behavior. Observance, physical posture. If I'm in a particular asana, then only I'm doing. So many people associate with that. So we will have some good behavior, good habits in our daily life. We'll observe these rules. We'll have a physical posture. In our school time, I remember many of the teachers would come in the class and see who's, sitting in the class with a lowering shoulder. No, everybody have to sit like this. When we straighten up ourselves, anyone in this audience who is sitting like this or sleeping, for a second, when you just straighten up your body and sit, you will see the difference. That is asana. All asanas start from there. A straight posture. Pranayama, control of the prana, the breath. We cannot just leave those things and talk about yoga. Pratyahara, withdrawal of the senses. Concentration, meditation, absorption, dharana, dhyana, samadhi. So in this whole world of space and time, human beings are the highest evolved being in the evolution cycle, as we have studied or observed so far. The physical universe is almost unbelievably larger than what it appears to our naked eyes. There are numerous solar systems, and our Earth occupies only an insignificant place. And we human beings are so tiny parts of this huge space. And we are so obsessed with the sense of self-importance. Where is surrender then? The whole space has absorbed all illusionary things to us, and we are nowhere. What is the real me? The real me has gone somewhere, and I'm giving false importance to all the unnecessary things. And with time, it is infinite. This past, future of our endless expanse of the time period, or the vague and hazy conception of what lies in the lap of our uncertain future, we should take a pause and at least wonder what it's all about. And for me, taking that pause is yoga. I breathe in, I breathe out. In between that in and out, whatever the pause is, the bigger the pause, the more yogic I am. This pause is yoga. I'll just like to show you one picture which I had downloaded from the internet and which appealed me. With that, I will conclude this, but I want all of you to just look at it. Let us not go by the grammatical error of things written here or the English part of it, but just look at the picture. Let me just read for others who are not able to see it. Yoga is not about executing the poses perfectly or having the best balance. Yoga is connecting with yourself. Yoga is like learning to breathe again. Or that moment when you jump out of bed in the morning, rush outside to do the Surya Namaskar, and you are blinded by how utterly brilliant the world can be. Yoga is taking a moment from your stressful, upbeat life and remembering that you are a soul. I don't like to read it as you have a soul, but I would like to read it as remembering you are a soul that needs tending to. So yoga is connecting myself with a higher, and my soul needs some tending. That is yoga for me in daily life. I hope I did justice with this hard topic with my whatever little knowledge I have and whatever I'm practicing. Thank you all for giving this opportunity. Thank you. Namaste.
Subhralina ji, thank you so much. You have given us such a heartfelt talk straight from your heart and what you do yourself. It was very spontaneous and very inspiring. So I really thank you for taking the time to come here and sharing this topic with us. And it is true that, people are very learned in this Patanjali's Yoga Sutra. But then to give your own experience, how you have applied it in your daily life and how others can do the same, that is very inspiring. So, dear brothers and sisters, we have seen how Suvalina has touched upon what are the Yoga Sutra. They are the thread of union and help us to re-establish us in our true nature. But just by knowing those sutra or worshipping that book, we will not achieve that union. We have to know them, study them, then manage ourselves, and then master ourselves. So that is what is the application in our daily life. We know that the book contains the 4 paths, and it begins in the very first path with Yoga Chitta Vritti Nirodh. That is what we are trying to achieve. But these modifications, the Vritti, the Panchaklesh, the 5 modifications are what are keeping ourselves from achieving that, the union. And how we can achieve that union, how we can do it in daily life. Subralina ji has so beautifully mentioned how to apply by Abhyas and Vairagya. Continuous practice, don't give it up. And in that sense, when we look at the obstacles in our life, that, oh, I cannot do this. Oh, I don't have this. You convert it into a sentence of solution. So every obstacle that you see, you look out for a solution. That is how you can apply it in your daily life. So these Yoga Sutra, they are not somewhere on a high pedestal, which can be achieved only by yogi. No, they can be achieved by everybody, every day, in every life, in our everyday life. So this is very beautifully put by Sister Subralina. What is yoga? Yoga is nothing but the pause which is in between your breathing in and breathing out. You are taking this breath every day, every moment of your life. And you are also achieving yoga with every breath that you are having. That is the pause, the stillness, the silence between these two, in and out, breathing in and out. So with these words, I thank Sister Subralina once again for this most inspiring talk. And if anybody has any questions or would like to discuss something or share their ideas, please unmute your mic and you may speak.
Thank you so much, Sister Suvelna, for your wonderful talk. And you touched upon that how yogic practice can be brought into daily life. So that part is very, very inspiring. I would like to put up some problem, like in a daily life, personal life, or professional life that we face. We attract negativities from the people surrounding us, maybe because we are progressing, maybe because of they are jealous of us. So how to deal this? Like what kind of attitude we could have to live peacefully along with it? So if you can throw some light on it, that would be very great. Thank you.
I would, it's a straight question for me, I think. Every audience, when I go and speak, I think somewhere the nature asks the question which happens, which I keep on pondering. See, interestingly, I have found out a logic here too. If I am able to see somebody's jealousy, that means some jealousy is in me. Honestly speaking, if I'm able to see, hey, he's doing that thing wrong, how am I identifying that is wrong? But that means some mirroring is happening with me also. Because see, people who are actually saint-like, they're at a very different stage. They have overcome everything and they're in absolute bliss. Because we are not getting absolute bliss, that means there is some impurity in us. That's the first thing. Second, we are all magnets. We all are all magnets. So somewhere, whatever is coming around and I want to absorb as a magnet, it's on me. How long as I hold on to it is also on me. एक वो मैच बॉक्स की तिल्ली की तरह हो सकता है या फिर एक हवाई जहाज की साइज का हो सकता है. Anything that is disturbing me, am I holding on to for 2 minutes, 3 minutes, 3 hours, 4 hours, 40 years, 50 years, till deathbed? I have seen people keeping grudges, keeping hatred in their heart till their deathbed even. Just because they are not empowered enough to let it go. I mean, this is what I feel. I don't know if I'm right or wrong, but this is what I see. First thing is, everything that happens around is mirroring. Here, now, or maybe in my past life, I am a hardcore believer of karma. I would have done something to Vivaji sisterly, that's why she's so fond of me. Otherwise, I'm not that a sisterly material. I'm so stupid, nutcut kind of material. Maybe she's wise and she is intelligent and her heart is very big. वो मुझे छोटी बहन की तरह प्यार करती है. वो चाहती तो मुझे 2 थप्पड़ भी मार सकती थी. यार सुबलिनिया, क्या तुम चंग हो रही, इधर जा भाग रही, उधर भाग रही हो. But look at it. She has embraced me as a younger sister because she believes that this is a little childish sister of me. I'll control. She can control me. So the very perception changes. People who you think are jealous of you, or you think that you are at a level and they have not understood, you don't know which level are they. They might be there to test you. Some people keeps on testing us, testing our patience, testing our capacities. Some people who even underestimate you. Love it. लोगों को underestimate करने दीजिए. Then you do something good. Time will reveal that. So let us not be in an anxiety. Correct me, seniors sitting here. This is what I believe I have been practicing. So maybe our seniors could add in some tips to overcome this. But this is what my little heart and mind helps me to overcome such things.
हाँ, स्वर्लिना जी, आपने बहुत अच्छा आंसर दिया है और मुझे एचपीवी का कुछ याद आ गया जो प्रैक्टिकल ऑकल्टिज्म में उन्होंने लिखा है कि आप अगर इस पाथ पर हैं और इस पर, जैसा कि आपने एक तो प्रैक्टिकल इम्प्लीमेंटेशन पर बहुत ज्यादा जोर दिया, ये बिल्कुल ठीक है क्योंकि बिना इम्प्लीमेंट किए उन सूत्रों का कोई महत्व नहीं. हमने विद्वता के खातिर पढ़ लिया, विद्वतापूर्ण वार्ताएं दे ली, लेकिन हमारे दैनिक जीवन में वो परिलक्षित नहीं हो रहा, वो दिखाई नहीं दे रहा. तो एचपीवी ने लिखा है कि आप ऐसा कोई भी सम्यक कार्य कर लें या जो दूसरे लोग हैं उनकी प्रतिक्रिया का कोई महत्व नहीं, उतना ही महत्व है जितना उनसे आप लर्न कर लें. बाकी उसको छोड़ दें क्योंकि वो आपके अंतस के बारे में क्या जानते हैं, आप कहाँ स्टैंड कर रहे हैं, आपका मेंटल स्टेटस क्या है, आपका इमोशनल स्टेटस क्या है, इसके बारे में वो नहीं जानते. तो उनकी मान्यता और उनकी कथन का कोई बहुत महत्व नहीं होता है. लेकिन अगर उसमें से कुछ लर्न करने वाली चीज है तो चूंकि आप विवेकवान हो चुके हैं, ज्ञानवान हो चुके हैं और कोई भी पदार्थ, कोई भी कोश उसको बांध नहीं सकता, आबद्ध नहीं कर सकता. वो कहीं ना कहीं विल पावर के रूप में आपको आगे बाध्य करेगा कि आप उस पर वो रहें. तो मुझे लगता है आपने बहुत ही सुंदर आंसर दिया और इतनी अच्छी सच बात है कि उन सूत्रों का जो हमारे डेली लाइफ से कनेक्टेड है उसको हम लगातार अनवरत रूप से अवेयर रह करके ही हम उसको ओवरकम कर सकते हैं. नहीं तो वो देहात्मा जो है हमारी वो हमको बार बार हमारे कोश हमको इसी तरफ ले आते हैं. और बहुत आपको बधाई, बहुत साधुवाद आपको इस बात के लिए.
मुझे पता नहीं बधाई या क्या देना है मुझे. मेरा जीवन ही ऐसा है, जब मैं मेरे फैमिली में किसी के घर में जाती हूँ, किसी बच्चे को बदमाशी करते हुए देखती हूँ एंड आई सी दैट पेरेंट्स आर कंप्लेनिंग, मैं पहले पूछती हूँ आप मेरी मम्मा से जाके पूछ के आइए मैंने उनको कितना तंग किया.
राइट.
और आप मेरे मम्मा के साथ जितने मैंने नाइंसाफी, जितना तंग मैंने उनको किया, उसके कंपैरिजन में आप अपने बच्चे को देखिए, यू विल फाइंड योर बच्चा गो. बिकॉज़ आई हैव बीन सो नटकेड, सो स्टूपिड, हर बार क्वेश्चन, हरकतें, जिद, मन में जो आया वही करना. मेरी मम्मी ने मुझे कैसे संभाला होगा. मैं हमेशा हर मम्मा को कहती हूँ जाके मेरी मम्मा से पूछिए, मैं तो बिल्कुल एनिमल हूँ, उन्होंने मुझे कैसे संभाल के इंसान बनाया. सो एवरी चाइल्ड व्हेन आई सी दैट द चाइल्ड इज नॉट कट, ये वो मैं सोचती हूँ मेरे से तो बेहतर है भैया, ये सुधर जाएगा.
नहीं, बहुत अच्छी तरह से आपने बताया. और अगर हर माँ अपने उस चाइल्डहुड को थोड़ा सा याद कर लिया अगर, तो मुझे लगता है कि ये जो कंप्लेंट्स वाली बात है ये शायद नहीं होगी. ओवरऑल मैं आपको फिर से बधाई देती हूँ, कांग्रेचुलेट करती हूँ इतनी अच्छा प्रस्तुतिकरण के लिए. और आप उसको डेली लाइफ में इतना गहराई से उतार रही हैं, इतनी डेप्थ के साथ उतार रही हैं कि मेरा मन बहुत प्रसन्न हो गया है. तो बारंबार आपको साधुवाद.
हम लोग थोड़े जेन्युइन हो जाएंगे ना मैम, लाइफ
हाँ।
हमारी बदल जाएगी।
बड़ा-
हमने
no doubt.
जेन्युइनिटी में रहना है।
No doubt,
गलती
no.
है तो मेरी गलती है भैया,
गलती है. Okay.
दैट्स इट, इट्स सो
Right,
सिंपल
right.
टू बी जेन्युइन।
Okay. Thank you.
थैंक यू मैम, थैंक यू।
Anybody else would like to speak or discuss something?
Yes, I may like to add
Yes.
to the question which was asked and very well answered by Sister Suvarilina. Just to understand, she said rightly that we act as a magnet and like attracts like. So, in order to understand the issue, let us take the example, the same man who has the negativity. He has a negativity towards a saint or say Buddha, the Buddha. There is an example in the life of the Buddha that somebody went and kept on abusing him continuously. And Buddha didn't show any reaction. So this man was tired. He himself got exhausted. And then he asked him, why are you not showing any reaction? He gave that famous example we all know about of the gift. That the gift you brought, I have not accepted it. So gift is with whom? Gift is with you. So friends, it actually depends on whether if we are tuned to 92.7 FM, we'll definitely get 92.7. But if we are not tuned to 92.7, we are tuned to 102.7, 92.7 will not be caught by us. इसलिए सारा खेल जो है ना, खेल बाहर का नहीं है, खेल अपने अंदर का है। और ये अंदर का जो खेल है ना, बड़ा खतरनाक है। खतरनाक, I have used the wrong word. It's very strenuous. You know, that's why in the Mahatma letters also it is said, the process of self-purification is not the work of a day or two, not even of one life. It extends over a series of lives. The earlier one starts, the better it is for him. So I hope I am able to give some idea to the sister Winnie, probably who asked this question, that instead of focusing on what is going on outside and somebody is coming and telling us something, if we focus on ourselves, maybe we purify ourselves like we purify gold by putting it in the fire, or when we purify silver, we put it in the acid number of times, take it out, put it in water, again in acid, again in water. So if we continuously do it, maybe someday, today, tomorrow, or someday we will come when we will not be showing that reaction. It's just a question of action and reaction. If we don't react, if in the Buddhism it's given the example like a broken gong doesn't make sound, or a bull with a broken horn doesn't give us pain when it comes and hits us. So it's just a question of that reaction, and it all depends on us, how we handle ourselves. This is one point which was in continuation of the answer given for the negativities found in other people. It's better to look inside also whether we have negativities or not. The other point which I would like to add was about the breath. I have been asking this question continuously, how to justify it, that it is the really right thing to do. Because somebody tells us, breath ko watch kariye, watch the breath. Now I have been asking this question, how do I get convinced? Because if I get convinced to somebody, just as Prince Siddharth got convinced that an old man, a sick man, a dead man, this misery is coming to me also. So just like one piece of rice, boiled rice, tells us about the entire rice, whether it is cooked or not. One example was sufficient for Siddharth to come to the conclusion about what is the issues we are facing. So similarly, the question is that, am I convinced And I keep on asking this question. Say, for example, during last few days, because of the COVID, there has been meditation going on by the Buddhist monks all over the world. And a large number of countries participated in that meditation. I also participated. And so large number of countries, when they ask for sitting for meditation, they ask you to look at your breath. Yesterday, I was visiting a site, 7 Wonders of the Buddha. And in that, in Thailand, they were teaching, look at your breath. And I also am told that Siddharth, Prince Siddharth, what he witnessed at the age of 5 below that Jamun tree. And he came to that Samadhi stage. Same he witnessed and he did when he got enlightenment. Now, what can be common? The thought of a 5-year child and the thought of Bhikkhu Siddharth are not the same. So, the similarity can be only about the breath and nothing else. So, I try to convince myself, because unless I am convinced 100%, as Buddha, as Prince Siddharth was convinced about the old man, sick man and dead man, it will not come into action 100%. That is my understanding, and that's all. And regarding the humility which sister mentioned, I mean, it's a well-known story of Newton when he discovered, he said, I have got only a few pebbles from the seashore. And the same thing was told to the Buddha. He said, I have got only a few leaves which are there in the tree. The entire tree is still to be left. And so far as the mystery of universe, you know, the science says that some of the galaxies and stars from where the light has started even before the Srishti was made has not reached this earth till now. And to tell us the number of galaxies and stars, they give us the example कि हमारे सारे हिंदुस्तानी लोगों के बाल जितने हैं उतने बाल को if you count them, then it will be almost equal to number of galaxies. Once in Rotary Club of Tanzania I spoke it, then somebody from the audience said, sir, in India most of you must be bald. आप गंजे होंगे इसलिए आपके बाल कम होंगे. Thank you very much. God bless you.
Thank you, Brother Rishikesh Sharanji. Thank you for that very enlightening talk.
Thank you, ma'am.
Hello.
Yes,
Hello.
sir. Yes, sir. Please
I must congratulate Suvarlena. Very nicely she explained, and her experience was very nice. I am very happy to listen her. And can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Am I audible, Suvarlena?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
What we have to remember is we all are yogis. Yoga is to be realized. We are all are yogis because our physical, emotional and mental body is always united with the Atma, Buddhi, Manasa. So Atma is always with our physical body, Buddhi is always with our emotional body, and this higher mental is always with the lower mental body. Already you are a yogi. Only in this life we have to realize it. And that is what you have tried best to explain. How am I not yet yogi? And how can I realize this? That you explained very nicely. Congratulations for your explanation. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, I think we had one more speaker, Bhavna.
Thank you, madam. I am Bhavna Revarikar. Yeah, thank you very much, madam, for your enlightening the presentation. Today I feel too much energetic because in job I face too many negative persons. So today I feel that I am able to find out the solution how to face these types of person. Thanks a lot, ma'am.
Okay.
Thank you, Suvarlena ji, for such an enlightening talk, and thank you, Vibhaji, also for a excellent comparing. So now I will request Satsangi ji, Dr. Satsangi ji, to please speak a few words.
Thank you very much. Can you hear, all of you? Yes. So I must congratulate Sister Suarlina ji, wonderful talk. There were so many beautiful things about today's session. Number one, the subject. Beautiful subject of the Yoga Sutras and commentary by Dr. I.K. Taimini. Wonderfully explained and presented by the speaker, Suarlina ji. Her style of speaking is remarkable. Her fluent way of talking, she is a prolific speaker. She has understood everything, and that's why, in a very simple manner, she could introduce the subject and she could explain it to all of us. Practicing the yoga in day-to-day life is the crux of all things. We all have read it many times. We know the translation. Still, to practice it in daily life is the most important way of practicing the Yoga Sutras. And I believe that if one has mastered the Yoga Sutras and have known it by heart and is practicing in daily life, he does not have to do anything more. Then I would also congratulate the comparer of today's program, Sister Vibha Saxena ji. She is a very brilliant speaker and a knowledgeable lady. And we all are very much proud of having Sister Suarlina with us and Sister Vibha Saxena with us. She is heart and soul of our group of this theosophical discussion, online discussion. So I congratulate her. And then I also congratulate Brother Taneja, who is doing his best to keep these programs going on. It's very difficult. But what I find that these meetings are much more fruitful and much more much better than the real meetings at Indraprastha Lodge. We have more participants from all over the country. We have all luminaries. We have Brother Shinde here. We have Brother Rishikesh Saran here, and so many of the regular. And I really feel that this is a wonderful platform with wonderful speakers, wonderful discussion. So this is true theosophy. So I congratulate all of you, all the participants which I see here, and and I'm thankful to you all that you have participated in and made this a very successful program. Thank you very much. Thank you again. Particular thanks to Sister Suarlina, Sister Vibha Saxena, Srindeji, and Brother Rishikesh Saran, and all our friends here. Thank you. Namaskar.
Thank you, Dr. Satsangi. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Satsangi, for your kind words. And you are an anchor of the Indraprastha Lodge. So we really look forward to you being there and guiding us.
Thank you, Brother Satsangi ji.
Thank you, Saranji. So kind of you. Nice to see you.
Yes, brother.
Okay, Brother Taneja ji, with your permission, should we conclude the meeting now?
Please. You are today in charge.
Okay. So everybody, please stand by for the closing prayer. Asato ma sadgamaya tamso ma jyotirgamaya mrityorma amritam gamaya Sarvesham swastir bhavatu Sarvesham shantir bhavatu
सर्वेषां शान्तिर्भवतु
सर्वेषां पूर्णं भवतु
सर्वेषां पूर्णं भवतु
सर्वेषां मङ्गलं भवतु
सर्वेषां मङ्गलं भवतु
लोकाः समस्ताः सुखिनो भवन्तु
लोकाः समस्ताः सुखिनो भवन्तु
सर्वे भवन्तु सुखिनः निरामया सर्वे भद्राणि पश्यन्तु मा कश्चित् दुःखभाग् भवेत् Thank you all for participating. Thank you.
Thank you, Sarolina ji.
all.
Thank you, Vibhaji. Thank you, everybody, for attending. Just I will add till next week, Pradeep Mahapatra ji will be giving a talk on the topic "Oh Hidden Life," which is based on various theosophical scriptures. So you all are requested to please do connect at the same time. Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
So nice.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Vibhaji, and thank you, Sarolina ji.